What's his name?
Did we watch Wes? Holy shit!
Wes Anderson.
Rewatchers and Swiss Watches.
I think we actually ended up only watching one.
Did we? Did we watch Grand Budapest? Is that what we watched?
We watched the one with the kids.
Oh, Moonrise Kingdom.
The one with like kids.
I can't. That
doesn't narrow down shit.
Specific enough.
You know exactly what I was talking about.
The one with the kids.
I mean, I do know it's not the Fox one. Like that's
Yeah.
Have you seen that one?
yeah.
Yeah.
Fantastic
Okay.
Fox.
Okay.
Yeah. Whoa.
I was about to fight you.
Welcome to the Rewatchers on the Pod. Was that a little loud for you? My bad. I'm excited.
I didn't know you were opening.
Oh, I was you were looking at Tyler and I threw it in.
Anyway, proceed.
I should have moved my
Should
mouth
I do it
so you
again?
thought Mitchell's voice was coming out
Or
of
do we
my
like
mouth.
this?
Oh, we're here.
All right. Well, we are rewatching some of our favorite movies. We're having a guest each week to talk about one of their favorite movies or movie maybe that they've always wanted to see. Whatever the hell we want, really.
There's no rules here.
But hopefully you enjoyed watching Twin Peaks and Game of Thrones with us, and we are definitely excited about our next series. But in the meantime, we're going to knock out some movies. So we're back. I'm Mitchell Marshall.
I'm Tyler McKinley.
Tyler Harris.
Justin Hammer.
And we have our first special guest this week, Jessamyn Svensson. I was going to screw it up, so I paused, and now it sounds just as bad. Jessamyn, we're super stoked to have you here. You brought us a delightful movie, Porco Rosso. Will you just tell us a little bit about why you love it, why you chose it to bring to our pod life?
Yeah, I chose Porco Rosso. It on my shelf of movies. I only have 3 Miyazaki movies. I have Ponyo, I have Porco Rosso, and I have Howl's Moving Castle. And I like Porco Rosso the most because it's so unusual, and it has such a problematic protagonist. And I really enjoy that it is sort of steeped in a lot of the problems, like era typical, like sexism is super present, and it's just fascinating to see like how the characters progress through that in a way that can maybe make people uncomfortable watching it.
Yeah.
And then all of that is undercut by a lot of hilarity that is the best. I just love it. I love it. I personally love
I
it.
have so many thoughts on those things you said, but you articulated it really well, so I'm excited to get into it. But for those of you who haven't seen Porco Rosso, it's only an hour and a half, so you should. But if not, I'm going to summarize it for you right now. I'm going to get you everything you need to know.
Every single
Do
second.
it.
A humanoid pig, the titular Porco Rosso, accepts a mission from his beachside phone to save schoolgirls. Pirates have taken all 15 of them hostage and have no idea how to supervise them. Porco destroys the pirate plane engine and tail. Don't worry, the girls are not in danger. They can swim. Porco tows their float to safety. The Italian pirate coalition has recruited an American to help them take down Rocco. Oh, yeah, Rocco, that's right. He showed up at a dinner club where they're hatching their plans. A singer serenades us. The hotshot American swings by to brag. Gina, the restaurant owner and singer, laments her third husband's death to Porco, formerly Marco, the non-pig who was cursed. Porco gets his bounty, pays off his plane, then gets some guns and ammo. The pirates struggle with teamwork on a group mission to rob a cruise ship, but the American bails him out. Porco wants to lie low in Milan, but his plane goes down from engine failure while flyboy Murica chases him. Marooned for 2 days, he gets in touch with Gina from his mechanic in Milan. She reminds him he's a wanted man in Italy. The Whiskers mechanic takes all his money, and his 17-year-old granddaughter engineers a fix, even though she's a woman. All of the women in the mechanic's nearly bankrupt family come to help build the plane. All of the men are gone for work. It's a mixture of Santa's workshop and a barn raising. At the picture show, an old Air Force friend warns Porco he's being followed by the secret police and should join Italy, but Porco ain't no fascist. Porco has to sneak away without a test flight. Theo wants to come with him. He reluctantly agrees to bring her big butt along. They make a daring escape through the canals. Porco's Air Force friend helps them avoid a trap from the Italian Air Force, and they make a peaceful flight over the Italian countryside. Mr. America decides to ask Gina to come to the U.S. with him and watch him make his beautiful screenplay, but she's thirsty for some bacon. Porco flies by, and she flashes back to their first ever flight together. Porco stops for fuel and hears that the government is hiring pirates, so bounty hunters are short on work. Back at the hideout on the same island where Captain Barbossa hides the Black Pearl, the pirates ambush Porco and Theo, whose name I just figured out is Theo. Theo convinces the pirates they have no honor and can't destroy the plane or hurt Rocco. They can only battle in the sky. The American, whose name is apparently Curtis, appears in the rocks like Spider-Man. He will battle Rocco, and if he wins, he gets Theo's hand in marriage. During late-night musings, Theo asks if her kiss could cure Porco's curse. He'd be like, nah, and reminisces to a dogfight in the war where he was the lone survivor and had an LSD experience in the clouds. Turns out it's an episode of All Fighter Pilots Go to Heaven. He sees his fellow pilots join the Eastern Australian current in the sky. In the morning, people have gathered from far and wide in the Mediterranean to watch the fight like it's the Quidditch World Cup. Mob boss Brad Garrett intimidates the crowd to behave with a machine gun. This is... wow. Do not disrespect Miss Theo. He gets a Yui with her. Cue the dogfight. Curtis misses a lot, and Porco loops him. Gina discovers the Italians want to use the fight to capture Porco. The dogfight turns into a boxing match when guns are jammed or out of ammo. Curtis tells Porco Gina wants his body and almost knocks him out. Then they knock out each other, but Porco wins by getting up just before the 10 count. Gina shows up in her plane that just says G on the side because she's a gangster. Everyone scatters, and Theo is forced to go with Gina and leaves Porco with a kiss. He and Curtis distract the Italians away so everyone else can escape. His face returns to humanity, and Theo gives us an epilogue with 0 helpful answers. That's Porco Rosso.
That's it.
Or I thought it was Rocco Rosso. Is that what you're saying?
Loco Rocco.
Loco, Rocco,
Okay,
Porco, Storco,
My
Rosso.
favorite dish in LNL.
Oh, sounds good. Oh. So yeah, that's a little bit. By the way, if I said anything offensive in there, 100% it was in the movie. I think women can be plane engineers.
I think we can, if we say anything offensive over the course of this episode, we can just blame it on the movie this time.
Absolutely, you got to remember this was written in Japan in 1991. It really has no reflection on us.
Anyways, good. Now we've got that out of the way.
Nice to have that safety net.
Yeah, man, not having a ton of experience with Miyazaki, this was like a weird movie to come into.
Yeah.
Like,
How many have you seen?
so I've seen Princess Mononoke and Howl's Moving Castle and parts of Spirited Away, but I have not seen all of it, which is probably that's a really terrifying
That's
thing for
crazy
me to say.
that I've seen the same 3.
Have you really?
And then now this one.
Oh, wow.
I feel like Howl's and Spirited are like the 2 most popular American.
Right.
Yeah, Spirited definitely is one I hear about a lot.
It's the ones that if you go to Hot Topic, there is like a Howl shirt and a Spirited
Right,
Away shirt.
yes.
Like it's the big ones that are hits with the emos.
Princess Mononoke is the one that always sticks out in my mind because I remember it was the first one I saw, and there's just that scene where a man's arm gets shot off with an arrow, and I was like,
And a man's
this is the coolest thing I've ever seen in my 13 years of existence. And then I saw a bunch of other, like, way weirder stuff than that over the course of the next couple hours. But yeah, this one, it feels very different to me from those ones. And I think for me, I was kind of immediately drawn in because it draws on so many like Western film tropes from like the 40s, and it's like got like this Casablanca vibe to it, and like there's parts of it where I was like, oh, this feels like almost Indiana Jonesy, like adventure-y, like at the beginning of the movie I was honestly expecting it to set up an adventure where they're like a race to a destination or something like that. And then it was so different and so delightful in how it subverted that. But yeah, let's talk about these pirates first of all.
Yes.
Good Gandhi. I love the pirates so much.
They're the best. I love that you immediately know what they're about the second, like in their first scene. You're like, oh, these are funny.
Yeah.
These are funny and weird and insane.
Yeah, but still dangerous.
Still dangerous.
Yeah.
But like you know what you're gonna get each pirate scene.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I have been pretty vocal. I mean, not necessarily on this podcast, a little bit on this podcast about my some things I dislike about the Japanese animation genre, and they all kind of share the same staples, in my opinion, of the flaws that it has. This movie actually included, but it uses the thing I loved about this movie is the tone it sets from the beginning, particularly with those pirates and just the rules of the pirating and the governments and the war and everything, and just the tone it sets with the character, the fact that he's a pig, no one fucking cares, like. All of that is just like uses those tropes in meaningful ways and makes it fit into the world. The humor fits into the world. It doesn't ever break the tone of the movie like it doesn't. I feel like they all have the same tone of humor, all Japanese animation, and it's thrown into like dramas. It's thrown into everything. But this, it fits so well, and I have far more good things to say about this than I do in several other ones. But mainly it's because of that, I think.
Yeah.
I'm so glad. That's relieving to hear.
If it sucks, we would have told you already.
Yeah.
No, yeah, it is crazy to me, like looking at this movie and being like, holy shit, the shifts in tone it does make are incredibly quick and extreme.
It's
and they work.
Yeah, it's almost. It reminds me of Shakespeare, like going from like in Macbeth, going from like a murder scene to like the clown scene.
Yeah,
right on the tail of each other. That's probably why I like it.
Yeah, I didn't even think about it in that term, but yeah, for sure. But yeah, I think too, one of the things is even the kind of like main premise of the protagonist that we have is that he is a pig.
Yeah.
And like that in itself feels so extreme, but it's just treated in that first scene where you see him when he's just like on the beach, like that just feels like a normal scene. And even that reveal of his face, like it's not accompanied by a musical sting. It's not like this big like crash zoom all of a sudden. I'm like, look at this man's pig snout. Like it's just, and I think that too like helps to establish that like there's just going to be some wacky stuff, but that's not necessarily the focus. I don't. It's
well, it was
so
a surprise to me as well that the film was not. I mean, it's about his becoming a pig and like dealing with whatever this curse is, but it's not. It's in such an indirect way. It's a little more subtle, and I prefer that, but it was not what I was expecting at all. I thought there was going to be a clear identifier of the curse-y. Cursor,
right?
Is that right?
That's you can normally get a relationship of the cursed and who cursed him.
Much like in Howl's Moving Castle, you have the witch and some sort of character along those lines that we never really got. And
no, it's like it's a thing that's he put on, right? Because it's I'm trying to get my words around, but it's something that he put on himself, and it changes. Like when you think you know how or why he's cursed, it changes through the movie and you're like, oh no, it's actually just survivor's guilt. Like he's got extreme survivor's guilt that has manifested into him like just defaulting to the worst parts of himself in order to cope with it.
Yeah.
It's so depressing.
Yeah.
But it's a really good illustration. I mean, it is a little bit of a Western trope just in that he is like this Lone Ranger figure who has disconnected himself, partially because of guilt and just this reflection that he's not worthy of being part of things like maybe he wanted to previously. He doesn't think he's worthy of Gina, and but he's not necessarily on the path to any sort of redemption. It's almost like Johnny Depp's character really, he wants to kind of be what he is. Obviously he's doing somewhat good things as a bounty hunter, but he is like a trash version of Han Solo. Like he is out to do his thing, but he's just really fun to be around. And for all the zany little things that happen and how we just accept him as a pig, which I think the animation does a good job of. He's not overly pig-like. That stuff all happens around him. He talks to himself a lot, which just kind of helps us as an audience, which I don't love, but I was kind of imagining it happening in Japanese, and I was like, oh, this is much more familiar.
Well, for me, too, I think that because that for sure is a trope of, like, anime and stuff is you get a lot of those, like, inner monologues or externalized.
It's a lot of telling and not showing.
Right. But I think for this movie, too, it works so well because it also, for me, it kind of falls into that noir trope of, like, the inner monologue.
It's not, like, perfectly a noir.
Right.
Like, it would have definitely worked better had it full tilted into that.
Right.
But
I agree.
because the flavor of it's there, it does.
Yeah.
work. Yeah.
And it does fade
exactly.
away as he gets. He has people with him full time. We get a lot more of that from the back and forth, but it's almost like we just met this character, but he's being pulled out of his comfort zone, and I think that's really good storytelling when we can already feel that so quickly, and those things change without us noticing them. The storytelling has already changed because our character has already. Not necessarily grown yet, but been pushed out to where he can grow.
Yeah. That's kind of one thing I want to talk about too is like, I feel like so many of the characters in this movie feel so distinct, and I loved all of them. And one of the things that, kind of in watching this, we kind of talked about it before, is like, I expected to watch this in like Japanese with subtitles, because that's that's the subs versus dubs. People get angry, and so when you said dubbed, I was like, sweet. And Michael Keaton is really good, as Porco. And then we were looking up a bunch of just the voice actors, and Susan Egan, who's the voice of Meg, and Hercules is the voice of Gina, who's great. And Brad Garrett,
Brad Garrett as that
shit,
pirate is
so
gold.
incredible. But that I feel like that's one of the things that this movie does really well is it uses all these well-known tropes of characters that you're used to seeing and everything. But it's all in the finer details. Mm-hmm. Like in Curtis, the line that killed me that like told me exactly who this man was not necessarily like early on, but when he goes to visit Gina and he has that very poetic line, he's like, that's my favorite line from a screenplay I wrote. Say no more. I know exactly what I'm getting. Like, there's even a piece of me that I can like tie this character to that I'm very ashamed of. You know what I mean? Like this, it's just so good. Like that stuff was really, really great. Yeah, I think I have a new favorite Piccolo also, which I never expected to see. Who was ever gonna jump over Piccolo from Dragon Ball Z, but Piccolo from Porco Rosso, I think we have a new champion.
That's the next aerial death match I do want to see.
I mean, Piccolo from Dragon Ball Z kind of looks like a plane too. Like he's got like enough of like
his white cape thing with the wings.
Armor.
He
Bad
wears that
look
like
for-
turban thing that looks kind of like the nose of a plane, maybe
Right.
if you look at it just right.
Tough
Anyways.
look though for the Piccolo, the instrument.
Oh, yeah,
Dropping
that's-
quickly in the Piccolo rankings. Of the world.
Yeah, it was sitting pretty at 2, but now it's at
Down
3.
in D tier.
Definitely 3.
Yeah.
I've officially heard that word 3 times.
But yeah, it's I thought all those characters were so great, and I think every character. I mean, even Porco has moments of like humor and stuff, but so much of that comes from those side characters. Yeah, I mean, I think that every character had like these really extremely comedic moments, but then also really great character moments. Even Brad Garrett's character, the pirate boss at the end, that moment with Theo where he's like, "You're a great engineer, keep it up." Like that is just that's a really grounded moment for his character. And yeah, it was all just, it's so delightful to watch. Like, it's just so great.
I think the way they give in to some of those things is so because you find everyone trying to subvert and resist those things, and I think the way that they dive in is just as interesting. Like Theo being like just being able to calm a giant mass of pirates and be like, "No, fight with honor." It's like, okay, like you just have to accept it for what it is when it does happen, and it's a lot of fun to go along with it, and like you said, I think the back and forth, because he's generally our straight man, and so as it jumps back and forth, that tone shift is jarring, and I guess it's not necessarily perfect, but as long as you enjoy each beat as it goes forward, we got exactly what we needed. Like there's probably I wonder how much the writer, I don't know if Miyazaki also wrote this, but how deep did he have this, or did he have this story, this one instance in this guy's life where he's reckoning with past pain and bringing it to this quick moment, and something where he gets stuck and then has to get out and do the final battle. Like that is a trope we see over and over again. It's even in Cars,
Right.
But
Even
I
Cars
there's
has
so much things I want to have fleshed out more. Well, Cars is an
Yeah.
exact replica of a Michael J. Fox movie that I'm forgetting the name of.
Back to the Future.
He plays a doctor and he gets stuck in a small town. It's literally the same
Really?
thing.
I didn't know any of this.
Sorry.
This movie is based off of like a 3-volume manga that
Oh.
Miyazaki wrote, so there probably is like way more detail.
Good. There are things I
and
want to know.
this it does feel like once you know that, you can see where it suffers from adaptation, like moving from one medium to another.
Was this aimed at kids
I don't
upon release?
think so.
It's the weird thing about Japanese anime is it's like, well, I'm particularly Miyazaki's because his is such a different flavor than everything else.
Right.
It feels a little more family centric, but it still is willing to go places Disney's not willing to go with
He
their
doesn't,
animated
like,
films.
patronize to children.
Yeah.
There's no talking down to them. Like he's like, because kids are really smart and they'll get that stuff. And I think he does that. He does the full turn into like the scary or the weird or the really like dramatic.
He seems to make
and
movies that you can
frightening.
grow with. Like
Yeah.
you can watch them as a kid and enjoy them, but then as you get older, you can enjoy more things about them, which I really appreciate about all of his work. Even though I don't love his whole body of work, I think that's something he does really well. We spent like a whole semester on him in my history of animation class. I want to say he had like some father issues, and then he also personally has some family issues because he just threw himself. He is so prolific. He lived in his studio, and so there's a lot of tension in his household. I know that, and I'm trying to think if any of that really comes across any of his films, and I can't think of it. He very separated that very well.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's willing to go places other family-friendly entertainment's not really willing to go, which is really cool. I think that you bring up that moment you talked about, Mitchell, on the beach with her, and those like tonal shifts. I think those moments work for me because of the tone they set in that. Like, well, throughout the whole film, they keep it consistent for me, at least, with that first scene with the pirates, like we talked about, with those little girls that come on board.
Yeah.
And they won the film for me. Like they set the tone right at the beginning for me, and I'm like, I love everything like this.
Yeah.
And the movie knows exactly what it is and what it isn't. And with those moments being so quirky and fun, things that you can would, I don't know how to word that, would I don't know, seem kind of corny or would be a little bit of a stretch,
Right.
land a lot better because everything else is so quirky and weird. People are climbing canyons like Spider-Man. Like,
Oh my gosh.
Just
Well, that's why it works, is because they consistently lean into it. Like the first time it's shocking, and I don't necessarily see that and already think, oh, this is a bad trait of this movie. But as they keep it consistent with the shifts, then it works, which is why when we do shift to him,
Right.
just standing in the cliffs.
Oh my god.
No
It
big deal,
primed
Mr.
you. They
Curtis.
primed you.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah. When it cuts away to him just in the crack. Oh my goodness. And then for some reason all the pirates escape that
like
way,
that's
too.
how they got
How they
in.
got down.
Yeah.
It's not out of the ordinary at all.
They didn't even think to like lower a rope or anything.
Well, and I think what the great thing about that too is it's like you don't just see him in the crack and then like jump down.
No.
You see him then like descend the crack,
Yeah.
all while like trying to maintain his like.
And then he does, like, a
higher
dive.
ground.
Olympic dismount.
And a near perfect Olympic dismount.
Yeah, so good. Oh man, yeah, that stuff really does work so well, and I think kind of the idea that this does feel like 3 volumes of a manga, and that there probably is a lot more. I think detail in the world, I'm sure, in that. One of the things I actually liked about this movie was you got a taste of like this very rich backstory that was tied to like somewhat accurate historical events, right?
Yeah.
Like they mentioned the Schneider Cup, which is an actual, those are actual plane races that happen, like things like that, and but it gives you just enough of that. It doesn't like burden you with a lot of detail there. It's enough to know that the world is in conflict at this point. And that's not necessarily where your focus needs to be. It's just to help you. Just knowing that conflict is there helps you better understand the character and his journey.
Yeah.
And I think that's actually I think that restraint actually really impressed me with this movie as well. because yeah, I have tons of questions. There are a lot of questions I have about the world, but I don't feel like the story suffered because I don't know those things. You know what I mean? It was just like, I'm just so invested. I just like what was there. But yeah, and I think this movie does, I mean, we've kind of talked about a lot of Miyazaki's movies, and I think a lot of the other movies I've seen at least tread into these existential and spiritual realms that at times are so beyond like my comprehension, and are really beautiful and really great. And this movie scratches that itch as well. Like the scene that we talked about with the fighter pilots ascending is
my favorite scene.
Yeah,
in the
it's
movie.
Gorgeous. Like, also, like that's one of my favorite reveals of the film too, is when you see that current. I mean, you just see what looks like an air current, and then as the other pilots are getting up there, you see it's just all these fighter pilots, and it's
an
really
existential
powerful moment.
It's a great way to focus on a piece of existential thought. Like, when movies do a lot of it, or we spend a lot of the time in the bizarre or the dream worlds, it's harder to know what everything, not that you have to know what every single metaphor or every single feeling is supposed to mean, but when speaking of this being for every age, I feel like as a kid you can get a direct feeling from that, and then as an adult it also made me emotional. So maybe it's the best of Miyazaki in that way, where we can take some of his really great animation and storytelling and writing and maybe find a focus that everyone can pull from. Mm-hmm. I think we talk about art where it's like, well, everyone should have their own interpretation, and there's certainly moments and thoughts in here that are, but it's kind of nice to know like we can all get a same general feeling and thought from what we are seeing the protagonist go through in that moment.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was really great.
Well said.
All right, can we talk about feminism? Can we do it?
So I do want to say, in comparison, there are a lot of things made around this time for kids where there's like a hidden dick joke, or like there's racial humor.
Yeah.
So it's not that out of loop in there, but yeah, there's just like all this questioning of a girl can't do engineering. It's like, wow, you were just wait until 2017, okay?
Right.
Because I mean, now obviously we have all these great education programs, because it's still not enough young girls still see this as viable as a lane and everything. So it was funny in the way we also have like the 17-year-old girl relationship with, we see her matched up with two very old men. So like, yeah, there's some non-woke elements, but I don't know. It was 1992, and that's not to dismiss them, but they're not treated in such a way. I think they're self-aware enough that if they're used for humor, that we can take them in as part of the story. But it's funny. Like I laughed at the sexist jokes, so what am I to say?
Yeah, it's also part of the tropes that they were pulling from. Like it's so heavy-handed almost with the I'm just a girl.
Yeah.
Like, and it feels like it's coming from like, I don't know, Annie, get your gun.
Yeah,
Like,
for sure.
That whole golden age sort of treatment of women.
Yeah.
And I think it's a very purposeful thing. So it's more, I feel, a representation of like how the 40s and 50s treated women and girls than it is the 90s.
Yeah.
But media didn't move past that.
I think there's a lot of elements that go into. I mean, you are dealing with something that was made in the 90s in Japan, which is a double whammy there. But yeah, no, I agree with you that it's also a product of the tropes they're leaning into, the time period it takes place in. I think it's also not as egregious as it comes across at first. It's not as fully realized as I would like by the end, but it's almost kind of part of his character growth a little bit. His recognition of her ability, regardless of her gender, is something that I feel like he kind of, it doesn't build and get there as solidly as I would like it to.
Right.
But it is still kind of a turn that he makes and comes to at the end.
Right.
Which I feel like is kind of symbolic in him kind of defending her honor, even though that's kind of
still like a weird.
Yeah, it kind of betrays it in its own way,
Yeah.
but
it's funny that feminism is almost like a double-edged sword there. It's like, well, you can defend her in that way, but the fact that you have to defend her, well, now that is another level of feminism. She should be able to do that herself, but I think it's well-intentioned. I also think we see some of the positive thing. Even though Gina's main role, while it is a romantic interest, and we know that she has been married a few times, so she doesn't pass a Bechdel test when it comes to people talking. Like, her interactions, like, it is mostly to do with her romance, but he does seem to have an affection and a respect for her, and she runs this strong business and isn't afraid to be surrounded by pirates and things. And I think that respect, when he's able to translate it to different females, helps him to see clearer. And I think it's also important that you mentioned this is Japan, where we watch a reality show called Terrace House, and
Oh my
while
gosh.
they may not
You
be
watch Terrace House?
Oh, I watched it.
yes,
Oh, good. Good.
the way
Okay.
at times they don't say it in a accusatory way, but they'll definitely like ask a guy like, "Is your preference for a woman to be more professional or homemaker?" And the way they do it, I think, comes off to a lot of Americans as sexist in it.
It's still very
different
steep in their
reflection.
culture, even that you like in
Sure.
that show. That's very much like the women are pouring men's drinks.
Or,
and
like,
that's like a
making
ceremonial
the food.
thing or
Yeah.
anything like that. But yeah, around that time period, like that would have even been more so in your face back then. So
I think one of the other helpful subversions in terms of gender. This is a really subtle thing, and I may be like reading into this a little bit more than usual, but Gina kind of fits. Not point for point, but the idea of this femme fatale from like noir. She is this object of desire. She's like got a reputation for that. You know what I mean?
she
All those
sings at
things.
a bar.
Yeah, exactly. Like that's the first time we see her is her just controlling a room, controlling the attention of men. But I feel like rather than being this femme fatale, like we do get these glimpses too of her just being very skilled, being very level-headed, and like, I mean, I think in particular the scene towards the end, we see her receiving that message and like basically being the thing that lets everyone get away at the end, right? And her role, I think, is so interesting, and she is like such a fascinating character, and there's a sadness there also that mirrors what we see in Porco, and both of them share this sadness of like not really being able to be with that person, even though you know, like it's so
Unrequited.
yeah. So I think that even with those things, like I feel like there are subtle like subversions of those tropes. Even with her character, I think that are really interesting, and maybe less in our face than the things with Theo, where it is just like it's the very obvious. It's that trope of that girl.
Very broad strokes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whereas with Gina, it's more subtle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's what I was trying to say in 2 minutes. Thank you.
I do feel like there is some interesting parallels with real world history again of when they're rebuilding his plane and it's just all women who show up.
Right.
I don't know. Maybe I read this wrong. When he's like, "Where are all your sons?" He's like, "Oh, they're looking for work." And he's like, "There's work right here." Was that supposed to be like they're off at war type of thing?
I think so. I think if I'm getting the time period right in this movie, is it's post World War I, and it's like leading up to World War II. So all of the sons would have been like working for the government, for like the sort of rising fascist situation in the Mediterranean.
Yeah.
So it would have. I always heard those lines as like, you know, in Forrest Gump when she's like, he's on vacation.
Yeah.
Like it's a euphemism. Like he's
Right.
he's instead of outright saying like where his sons exactly are, it's they're looking for work, and that means something that is being implied.
Right. Yeah.
Which
Yeah.
I don't know
see
how
that.
much that happened as much in other countries that did in the United States during World War II. Of
Where
all the
women took stuff, yeah.
women all just worked in factories and took jobs that their husbands had or the men normally had, and that was kind of a reflection to me, at least, that I read into that during that scene. And and then we get the great prayer. That was one of my favorite lines. I can't even remember it. It's one of my favorite lines. It was like, "Forgive us for this plane
For
made
building
by
a plane. Yeah. Building a fighter plane.
Really fun.
Yeah.
That's such a great moment. That's another one of those like that moment like veers crazily into like this serious tone and then right back out of it in like
Right.
record time.
Yeah.
Even for this movie, I think it's so good.
And I really like the whiplash in the humor because I feel like it's naturalistic.
Yeah.
That happens in real life.
I feel like that's part of
Yeah.
comedic timing.
Yeah.
Is intentionally leading you one way, then whiplashing to the other.
Yeah. I will say the scene where all the women are coming into the factory, it just made me think
So
of Game
good.
of Thrones with what's his
Walder
face?
Frey.
Walder Frey. Yeah.
Oh,
He's
yeah.
like, Walder. Like that whole thing is just introducing everyone by name.
Probably Wilder.
But yeah, it was so delightful. Everything that took place in that factory, I loved
Yeah.
so much.
That was my favorite
I like the
sequence.
3 old ladies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We need money for poker. I can't do their voice.
Is it still
My own
alive?
interpretation.
I love how he just keeps taking his money. I'm always taking my money. I'm like, hey, well, if he didn't win, but he did win, so his debts are paid off. But where's he going to get other money? Like when he took every dime, I was like, yeah, what is he going to do for food and board? Man, like, what if when he leaves, what's he going to do?
Oh, Mitchell, just
Really
taking
ripped him
on
off.
the financial stresses of everyone
Yeah, man.
around you.
I need to get him a Mint app. You know, one of those. We need to figure out what's going on.
You
with
need a budget.
all your bounty. Yes, absolutely. You got to be a fiscally responsible bounty hunter. That's what I learned from Boba Fett. The only other bounty hunter I could think of off the top of my head.
Dog.
Samus.
Samus, also a bounty hunter.
I listened to a really good podcast with Dog the Bounty Hunter the other day, and he is absolutely psycho, but he's also like one of the sweetest human beings you'll ever meet. And I feel like I know him.
Well, good. So Pig, the bounty hunter. I don't know where to
I
go.
like how often
just had
people
the
are just
segue. I
like,
didn't have
pig,
anything to go into.
pig,
Yeah.
pig. Are there any scenes, characters, or thoughts that were critical of this? I think it's so hard because we could all just re-laugh at every joke that we can
Yes,
remember and
yeah.
bring back. But an enjoyable and rewatchable movie. Again, it's quick, it's fun. I want to spend more time with him. I might actually like seek out the manga for this, and it's fun.
Yeah, I one of the other scenes I really loved, and again, it's like maybe one of the most trope feeling scenes in this movie is the scene in the movie theater when he has the meeting with Ferrari, and
I forgot his name is Ferrari.
yeah,
I love
yeah.
that.
And I love that they're watching. I love the movie. They're
Whatever it is
watching.
that they're watching is so captivating.
Yeah, it's so great. And like also man, the dialogue in that also just feels, I don't know. That's one of the things too when I watch especially watching the dub of something like this, I wonder how much of that happens in the localization of something like that, because that whole conversation feels ripped from just like a 40s gangster movie. Like the whole line where he's like, this movie sucks. And then like that's called back later when the other guy's like, this movie's pretty great. Yeah. Like it's just that is such it's such a tropey like noiry moment. And it's so good. And yeah, and the animation they're watching is just so good. There's just I was gonna call it a long neck dinosaur.
It's like a
because of Land
dragon.
Before Time. Yeah, like just
Littlefoot.
so good.
Gets its neck tied in a knot, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I want to watch it.
Oh, it's so good. But yeah, I loved all that stuff. I think honestly, I think that's maybe one of the things that made me like this movie immediately more than I've liked other Miyazaki movies. Is it just feels steeped in a lot of the stuff that I grew up watching too, and I'm like so familiar with film wise. It felt
I'm
really
curious
good.
if anything was lost in translation or not lost.
If some of the like language subtleties or like interpersonal interactions were made like blunt or
Either lesser or more so by translation. But I mean, if we would have watched it with dubs, like then you read into it and you don't really know. So I think, and usually I know they do a good job of this, and it's interesting the voice cast that they did get. But I'm curious if anything was lost. I guess we'll read and find out. But overall, it seems effective. It felt right.
Yeah, I'm glad I usually watch anything in other languages and subtitles, but I'm glad we watched this in dub because I feel like a lot of the comedic moments would not have had the same impact.
Yeah,
There was some great voicing again. Brad Garrett killing it.
Brad Garrett. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and it's better with a cartoon for sure. I think there's definitely dubs that are tough with humans. Yep, that's what I meant.
When they're dubbing them humans.
Don't dub the non-humans.
But the pigs work out really great.
Pigs dubbed.
My
best way.
personal favorite moments in this movie is I really like the scene with him and Theo on the beach when he's telling the story.
Mm-hmm.
I think that there's a lot of like human complexity that is explored there, and I just think that it was handled very masterfully. And my second favorite is when they're all getting ready for the fight. And they're like laying down the ground rules, and there's the weird like guy, and they're like you like he comes down on him, but then the little weird guy like throws the grenade, and he didn't have to, but he does to like punctuate the command.
That
it's
whole
so funny.
from people gathering and getting excited, him threatening everyone with the gun. Then even at the end when the guys come down and all of a sudden it's a full on boxing match that they're just they got the bell, they're ready to go.
Yeah.
In the
I
shallows
love
of the
those
ocean, just like right there, the whole thing takes place in the water.
It's so hard to move in the water. It's terrible. They never move out.
They bring the chairs
They
in.
bring the
Yeah.
chairs out. I love it. She's got the water or beer, whatever, for him when he goes to sit down. Oh, it's great.
Yeah.
For a second, by the way, I was worried that we were going to be like choosing story over the fact that she might actually, like, Theo might actually have to marry this dude. I was like, oh, this is real. They might actually let that part happen and just have the rest of the story go, okay. Oh boy.
I think that whole sequence at the end too, like I feel like you get how amazing the animation in this movie is and how it holds up so well. I was over at Justin and Gwen's the other night, or last night, and we watched the trailer for that Christopher Columbus movie. What the hell was that called? The Magic Voyage or something?
I don't
There's
even
a Christopher
remember.
Columbus movie coming out.
No,
No.
it's from like
Oh,
a
okay.
while
So I
ago,
was like,
which
that's
is
very
it's
maybe
like
early
Yeah, no,
90s.
not
Stop
reading
letting
You
him
the
watched
room.
it. If anyone was thinking of making that, they just need to watch 12 seconds of this trailer, and they'd be like, "Oh shit, yeah, this is bad." The best part of that trailer is there's a bunch of like talking animals who are just stoked as shit to be on the cruise with Christopher Columbus, and then like at
cruise.
some point, that's what it feels like. But then there's a moment where the guy's doing the voiceover for the trailer says, "Told like just as it happened."
No.
Anyways, that trailer, you watch the animation from that. I'm sure that movie was released in like 93 or 94. You watch the animation in that trailer, and you're like, holy shit, and it's probably because there were 7 people working on it,
Right.
and like it just does not look good. But this movie, I mean, the backgrounds, like every detail is so gorgeous. I mean, I even just think of there's a shot stuck in my mind of just all those stacks of money,
Yeah.
and like the detail on that money is just gorgeous. But yeah, that whole scene with that crowd at the end, it all just feels so epic and grand, and it does make those like the contrast of that to when he is telling the story and he's just skimming along the top of that cloud and the plane is flying itself and it's just completely quiet, like
Yeah.
those moments, that's like I feel like what makes this movie great, and it's just really, really wonderful. But yeah, go watch that Christopher Columbus. I think it's called The Magic Voyage.
Magic.
Woof.
You just made me look up like wait. Never mind. I gotta Google something. The music I want to mention also is really fun. It starts out with this operatic moment, then of course Gina's entrance is singing, and so there's all these little Italian undertones. And I thought the sound, especially because you have these bombastic characters and then those quieter moments, really effective sound.
Yeah. It's got it has a unique and very consistent sound profile.
Yeah.
Like it all is cohesive.
Yeah. It never feels like you might expect like these dog fights to get really insane and loud, and it never feels it always feels elegant to me.
Yeah.
Like every moment in this movie feels
I wonder
so
if they
measured.
re-recorded a lot of the when they do the English dub, because I mean this is also like sounds like a remaster of the English dub, because John Lasseter was credited as producer, and he wouldn't have been involved until much later.
Yeah.
So yeah, I wonder if they re-recorded a lot of the sounds, or if they somehow can, Because I mean, that's all going to be one audio track, right? Like
Yeah.
back then,
They'd have to
especially.
remix it.
Yeah.
Like, right?
I would think.
Like, they'd
yeah.
have to remix
Justin?
it.
Yeah.
Is that how that works?
He's gonna-
Audio man and God.
he's nodding. He's nodding and squinting.
Yep, we're right.
We nailed it.
When you said Christopher Columbus, I thought you meant the director.
Okay, that also
I had to
happened
look
to
at
me
his
last
filmography.
night because Gwen was like, "You know that Christopher Columbus movie with the big thing of bugs?" And I was like, "No, what movie is that?" Because I've written that man out of my mind.
He has a weird filmography. His last one, Pixels, starring Adam Sandler.
Okay, yeah,
It's been...
yep.
There was a rough end there. He has some gems back in the day, though. He wrote Goonies, so we got to forgive him for whatever.
Goonies is great.
The first
Love
two Harry Potter movies are Christmas movies. Fight me.
I'm with you on that.
Sounds good.
Yeah,
All
I'm
right.
down.
They're both Christopher Columbus, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
he
yeah.
did.
And I also don't want to fight you, so
Okay,
yeah, let's
yeah.
watch me. Everyone watch it for Christmas.
If you threaten to fight Tyler, he'll agree to anything.
It's great. Did Christopher Columbus direct Home Alone or write Home Alone?
He did not. John Hughes wrote Home Alone.
Yeah, I know John Hughes was
He directed it.
was doing one of them, but didn't Christopher Columbus direct Home
Yes.
Alone?
Yeah, he directed it.
Okay.
Yeah, but John Hughes is the writer on all the Home
Okay.
Alone movies.
Yeah.
All of them?
I didn't know
Yeah,
that.
even through
Even
4.
3?
Yep.
Oh, shit.
Weird. It's
if you would have
weird.
said 3, I would have believed you. 4, whoa.
Yeah, it's weird.
What
Yeah,
he
guy.
directed Home Alone 1
Anyway.
and 2.
Yeah.
Movie about pigs. Flying planes.
Pig. Yeah, pig flying
Sorry,
plane.
a pig.
Red Pig.
Okay,
yeah.
Before this podcast is over, I do need to mention the line. I may be a pig, but I ain't no fascist. Is the best thing I've ever heard in my
Yes.
life.
So good. So good. Yeah, there's so much of that that there was so much political like overtone to
Yeah.
this movie while the movie is not really
Well,
about
And
that.
it affects the main storyline
yeah.
in really fascinating ways, like even the value of the money. The reason why there's stacks and stacks of his money
Right, yeah.
is not for like when like cartoons hyperbolize.
Yeah.
That wasn't it. It was a very realistic, like the money had lost its value.
Yeah.
So we had to pay a ton of it in order to,
I
And
didn't
it's all
think about
informed by the
that.
government and the economy suffering from the war.
Mussolini era Italy's. I'm all interested.
Yeah, I'm glad they didn't Phantom Menace it and get it like bring us way too into the
No,
politics
yeah.
of this movie.
A Senate. There's a Senate scene. There's a trade blockade.
And then Porco Rosso flies his plane through the meeting.
This is pod racing.
This is pork racing.
Hog race.
I'm bad at
Hog
this.
racing. There we go.
Hog racing.
I had a pretty big pod collection.
Welcome to the podcast where we just connect every thought that we can possibly have.
Racing. There's
Oh,
a joke here, and I
we're-
can't quite.
We're getting lost.
Sorry.
No, this is
We derailed.
But
This
but,
is
but
better
thank
than
you for
most weeks.
bringing us this movie.
Yes.
I thoroughly enjoyed it.
I'm very relieved. I was very stressed out when Tyler invited me. I was like, oh, God, I have to pick a good movie. Shit!
I
Tyler
am
picked
interested.
the worst movie, maybe the second or third worst movie we've ever watched. So.
Yeah.
and also maybe the fourth. Well,
I did pick Blade too.
yeah, I was gonna say Blade exists in this quantum state where it's like the worst and best movie all at the same
I
time.
mean, but I feel like Blade fit what your podcast was about more than the
Yeah.
previous one.
Tyler's
but I-
like some motherfuckers just always trying to ice skate uphill. It's a deep cut Blade reference from the climactic fight of Blade.
Yeah.
Go watch it.
I am interested. Is there anything that you are critical of this movie other than like obviously some like time period stuff and everything like that? But is there anything filmmaking wise that you're critical of?
I mean, yes. I do think that this movie suffers a little bit from weird pacing. And you do kind of have to... The first time I watched it, I was very captivated because I was interested in seeing where the slow moments were going to go. But it doesn't hold up on a rewatch. And I think that is an element of this movie that is the result of being an adaptation. That's it. I think that's like my main criticism of it. And I do like Michael Keaton's voice so much as Porco Rosso, but he's got a very consistent sound that can be kind of boring.
Yeah.
Like just kind of boring. Sometimes I'm like, but what if you did other pitches or a
It's pretty
different
flat, yeah.
pace? You know, it's really flat, but it works for the genre. It like works for what they were, I think, trying to go for. So it's something that is not my favorite, but I forgive it because I love Michael Keaton. Yeah.
Just like one bit of direction you could have given him was just like, give it like 10% Bruce Wayne.
10% Bruce Wayne.
Bruce Wayne.
Yeah. Like, you want to get nuts? Let's get nuts. Like, what if Porco Rosso is that?
That would have been a great line for him to say in the fight while he's throwing stuff.
Which is also so good when he throws that wrench and it hits the American.
It's a really great
It
moment.
goes flat. It's so
I
good.
honestly, I was like, is that how this ends? I thought he was knocked out, done for a minute. And I was like, this is going to end with Porco Rosso pulling like the coolest ass like flying maneuver where he like flips himself upside down and pulls that guy out of his cockpit right before the other guy's plane crashes and saves his life. But then they fought in water and it was way better.
It was a way better ending.
Yeah.
Those would be my criticisms, though.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
I'm super happy we watched it. What a killer freaking first choice to kick off we're back in the movie zone world.
Oh, I like it. It's fun. I'm glad to back.
So we're going to take a break and talk about some of our favorite recommendations. If you don't want to hear us talk about current things, please come back next week. We're going to be watching The World's End with Brandon Bills as our special guest.
Yeah.
But
He's so fun.
you should stick around. We're going to talk about what we recommend
Yeah,
in
it'll be
just a
fun.
second.
But yeah, if you want to reach out to us on social media at all, you can email us at rewatchersonthepod@gmail.com or get at us. Don't get at us.
At
We're
us.
friendly. Yeah, at us on Twitter at rewatcherspod and also our new Instagram.
Whoa.
Also at rewatcherspod. We'll be posting stuff there. And we
Good
know you like stuff.
And we'll follow you back.
Maybe.
I don't know.
I'm not in charge of it, so I can't make
I'll stop
promises.
you first.
I will post some like just weird selfies on the toilet, probably. Who knows?
We want to keep the gram real.
Yes, we definitely want to keep the gram real, for sure. That's what I hear, at least. I hear that's good. But yeah, all right. Slight break. Some music.
Welcome back to the Rewatchers on the Pod. We're going to throw some recommendations at you for what you've been or what we've been watching and what you should be watching because we are obviously all-knowing and smart and, yeah, great recommendations. Tyler, whichever one. Go first.
Oh, yeah. Who are you talking to, Jeremy?
I was looking at you.
I figured, yeah. Justin and I went and saw The Lighthouse this week, and man, what a movie! It's honestly a movie that, I mean, I knew this going in, but even more so than I expected, that I cannot recommend to everyone. I feel like I'm not spoiling anything. It's pretty clear from the trailers that there is kind of a descent into madness. There's this kind of like this parallel of reality and hallucination type of stuff. I was expecting the hallucination type of stuff to be a lot more, a lot harder to discern what was reality and what was really happening versus what was being hallucinated. And it seemed a lot more clear cut to me as I was watching it of, oh, okay. But that being said, it gets a lot more hard to wrap your head around with that in mind. Like, that seems like it'd be a lot easier to understand, but that makes it almost more difficult to understand because of all the things that are happening. I'm trying to talk about this without it being spoilery.
Yeah.
But, yeah,
Who do you recommend it to? Who are you like, you know what, you would. If you like this or you like to think like this, you would enjoy this movie.
I mean, honestly, I think I feel safe recommending it to anyone who even just likes thinking about movies from the perspective of how the hell did they make this? Putting yourself in a filmmaker's type of shoes or an actor's shoes especially. I think even that alone is very entertaining and very appreciative. There's this... Okay, Willem Dafoe, first of all, this might be jumping the gun here, but I feel like there's Daniel Day-Lewis in There Will Be Blood, and then and then right next to it is Willem Dafoe in The Lighthouse for me.
Wow.
I am blown away by his performance. Some of the
I think I
things
might agree with that. I hadn't thought about that specifically, but now that
It's
you
because
say
it's
that,
such a taboo thing to think.
That's
It's terrifying.
I think I might put that there too. Yeah.
Yeah. There's a particular scene I don't want to spoil anything where he has to do something pretty physically demanding, and it's incredible.
He's not a young man anymore.
No, he's not. And
But also maybe like for a man who has consistently had incredible performances, I feel like over the last few years, like At Eternity's Gate, that Van Gogh
I still
movie,
need to see that.
and his part in Florida Project, like those are all, and now Lighthouse, like those are all three incredibly different performances, and like they're all so good.
I mean, what was your take on that? Because you've seen it, so what was your take on that? Do you feel like that's pretty fair?
On his performance, it's incredible. It's crazy because Robert Pattinson is also very good in this movie, but there are even moments where it's like, holy, Willem Dafoe's like on another plane. Like he's really incredible. But yeah, I think especially if you just want to see two really incredible performances, and like when I say that, it's the thing of like I can't even say I understand character motivations throughout that movie. But those performances are so fascinating, and I'm just like riveted to like see what's going to happen between them. Like it's really, really good.
Yeah.
So.
I came home. Sorry, I'm taking up too much time, but this is such a I haven't been able to talk about this movie. Justin and I tried to talk about it right afterwards. Like, we need some time to digest.
It was too soon to
and
talk
I heard
about it.
Max like isn't really forthcoming with his opinion on the film.
I try.
Max is Tyler's 2-year-old son.
I'm like, Max, how do you feel about the use of masturbation in this film? But yeah, he doesn't quite get it.
Rocket League.
But yeah, I got home and I was like, man, I got to go to bed. It's late. Instead, I was up for 2 more hours in bed reading Wikipedia entries of sailor lore, and which led me into Greek mythology. And it's really fascinating because then it honestly did help me appreciate the film more. I was able to understand not necessarily not the character motivations of the character, but the writing behind the character. And Robert Pattinson's character especially is kind of a combination of several different characters from different lores and mythologies, where things are ripped directly out of each of those things and kind of combined into this character. So really interesting, and for anyone who likes that type of stuff too, this film is just fascinating.
So for all those Twilight heads, Robert Pattinson's back, doing some of your favorite things.
His best work since.
The shape of his career post Twilight is wild.
It really is.
It's of a desperate man trying to shake the ghosts of his past.
He does it.
Yeah.
No, he's great in the movie.
Yeah.
I feel like he deserves a ton of praise, but
we'll see what Batman is.
He's gonna get overshadowed by Willem Dafoe.
There
will always be these 3 years where he did The Lost City of Z and this, and we'll just see what he puts on the other end.
I mean, the last 3 movies I saw Robert Pattinson in, I really love. Like Good Time, High Life this year, and Lighthouse are all phenomenal performances from him. So yeah, I'm excited to
He's also Cedric Diggory.
Also that, yeah.
Jessamyn, did you have any recommendations?
Yeah, I saw Ad Astra recently,
Oh, cool.
and I really loved it. Did you see it?
I did, yeah.
Did you see it?
No.
Did you see it?
We've talked about it on this podcast, but I've still not seen it. But I feel like I have.
We're not worried about getting
Yeah.
spoiled though. So like,
If you've already talked about it, then
No. I do want to talk
yeah,
about
we do.
it.
We definitely do.
I do want to know, how do you like? One, how do you feel about the narration, and two, do you think that they landed the ending? Because those are the things I hear the most about.
I thought that they landed the ending. Okay. I thought that the ending was perfect. I think structurally that movie is basically just a Greek epic. Mm-hmm. And as soon as you realize that, you're like, oh, yeah, okay, yeah, this is a perfect movie.
Yeah.
But the narration is a bit weird. It's a bit weird. But I didn't mind it. I thought that it was a beautiful movie. That's it. It was a beautiful movie about a guy.
It is really gorgeous.
Who's trying to not, trying his best. Just trying his best in space, but it is like a slow space movie. So if you don't like Solaris or like Sunshine, you probably won't like this movie.
Right, yeah.
But I really loved Ad Astra, and anybody who I know who has seen it who didn't like it, I'm like, oh, please tell me why you didn't like it. Like, I'm very curious as to those negative opinion conversations, because it is such a polarizing film.
Yeah. That's because I really like that movie. And I think when I talked about it previously, I was like, I feel like 2 drafts ago, this script was exactly what I wanted this movie to be. And then there were some elements, added to it that I think, like, because for me, it's like, I will watch a 9-minute take of space and someone breathing. You know what I mean? Like that's what I want, especially if you're gonna shoot it and I'm gonna go see it in IMAX. Like, fuck yeah, do that. But yeah, I think the ending, and I think like the I don't want to call it a message. I don't know what that movie is about.
Right.
Like resonates in a place deep inside.
It reminded me of Gravity, like the same sort of like returning to a place of you came back to appreciate something that you previously took for granted.
Right.
But his journey to do that and like the resulting can it be spoily? Or no?
I don't really care.
No,
I think it's
I don't. But
Yeah, I'm fine.
it was interesting that they live in a reality where there's confirmation that like we're alone.
Right.
Like I thought that was a really bold choice for a science fiction movie to do that.
Yeah. And it might be like you come out of that movie being like, oh, is that actually the scarier answer?
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I'm glad that they did that. And I'm glad that it had the emotional resonance, like the resulting emotional resonance it did.
Yeah.
And yeah, I liked it a lot.
That's
Good
cool.
job, Brad Pitt.
That's a good idea.
Hey, Brad, you're doing great.
Brad Pitt really had a good year. Justin.
Two things. One quick just thought. I have still been freaking out about Hereditary since like a month ago when I watched it for the first time. Like,
Welcome to the club.
It has ruined
I'm years into this.
the dark for me. Like I thought I was over that from being a little kid, but it is back and just worse than it has ever been. So yeah,
I was in a haunted house the other day that had a Hereditary-esque setup,
gosh.
and I couldn't stop thinking about it. It was so bothersome.
yeah.
Oh my gosh.
That movie, it's messed me up. So yeah, one other thing.
So we recommend it strongly. Go mess yourself.
I definitely recommend it. It's good. Tyler and I went a few weeks ago. I've been dying to talk about this since we haven't done recommendations in a while. We went and saw a reshowing of Alien in the theater.
Ooh.
It was one of the AMC. It was
Fathom
like the
event.
Classic cinema,
classic, yeah.
whatever they're doing right now.
That was the first time that I'd actually seen Alien, and seeing it,
man.
getting that chance to see it on the big screen in a theater with other people. That was a really cool experience. Like that's something I don't get to do very often, is see a classic movie in a format where it was like the way it's supposed to be seen.
Yeah.
So I've been thinking about that quite a bit. It was a lot of fun to just be in the environment of what space looked like when it was like back in the day when everything was analog, and just the way everything looked. It felt really good. It felt like kind of how Star Wars felt when I was a little kid. Like it felt real, kind of.
Yeah.
I don't know how to really explain that. Yeah, it felt good. It was a good time.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't really know. I wanted to talk about it, but I don't really know what I want to say.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I think it's like kind of connecting that to Ad Astra too. I feel like the production design in both those movies, the way that like ships are designed in Ad Astra are so. It feels so good.
Yeah.
Like it's just.
It's like getting into a good pair of shoes.
It really is. Just like
so good.
oh yeah. Put me in space. But that's kind of the same thing with Alien. I feel like the reason Alien still works is that production design and like those like the parts of that ship. It feels more like a car than like a spaceship. You know what I mean? Like everything is tangible
like
and
grimy
mechanical. Yeah,
and real.
and just steamy. Like everything is steaming all the time, and like the CRT screens are just. Why? That's what we should be doing more of. We should be going back to CRT, is what I'm saying.
There was
yeah.
the beginning of the movie. They had like I don't know what you would call the guy. He kind of like
some critic or something.
Yeah,
I can't remember his name.
Yeah,
now,
I can't remember his name, but he basically like kind of gave like a synopsis of the movie, and he also said that when he saw it, when he was a teenager or something, he talked about one scene in particular that was like the scariest moment of his movie going experiences like ever that he's ever had, and it's kind of interesting to like for me seeing a movie that was released so long ago, and like that sense of fear, it doesn't really hit me the way that it would have for audiences back in the day when it originally showed. So that was kind of interesting. Like the alien itself looks dated, but it's still, I don't know, it's still terrifying. Like that Geiger design is just so visceral and
Yes.
yeah.
Those aliens.
Yeah.
Those aliens fuck me up with that H.R. Geiger shit. I love the Aliens movies.
They're so good.
Oh my gosh. Alien Resurrection is banana balls.
Yes.
It's the weirdest
Have to
movie I've
check
ever
that
seen.
out.
We need to talk because
Yeah.
I don't know anyone else has seen that movie, and like I'm like I really don't like Aliens 3, and like
It's
people are
really
like,
bad.
man, Aliens 3 is bad, but Alien Resurrection sucks. I'm like, oh, I don't know, Alien Resurrection might be what I want Alien to be like now. So, anyways,
Is Alien Covenant worth watching?
Yes.
yeah.
Okay.
I like it. I actually just got that. I just got that and Hereditary on Blu-ray because they were like $4 each on Amazon.
And Covenant's essentially the Prometheus sequel, quote unquote, right?
Yes.
Sort of,
It's
yeah.
a follow up. There's definite.
Okay.
It's in the same. Yes.
All right, yeah.
Yes.
I still need to see. I mean, at some point, I need to watch 3 probably, and Resurrection
you
I have
don't.
not seen. I've seen.
I mean, it's
I've
a
seen-
David Fincher movie, so definitely going.
So it's raining all the
expecting it to be just a spaceship. What the fuck? It's just so fucking
the
steamy in
coolant's
this
leaking
shit.
again from 7,000 holes. But I did see Alien versus Predator, and
AVP.
So what else do you really need from?
so I have seen the
Mr.
quintessential
Alien?
Criterion Collection level shit right there.
Oh my gosh.
Oh boy. Tyler Harris, did you have any recommendations?
Yeah. So I also went, like we talked about Lighthouse, which definitely is awesome. I went and saw Jojo Rabbit yesterday, which is really, really wonderful. And I felt in talking about Porco Rosso and its tonal whiplash that worked really well. Jojo Rabbit is also a movie that does that in ways that I didn't expect it to. And I really loved it, and I just want to go see it again. That's the thing that sucks about a lot of the movies I've seen lately is I just want to spend $1 million going to the theater every day to watch movies I've already seen. But yeah, Jojo Rabbit is really great. Just go see it. There's not a whole lot I want to talk about. I'll wait till more people have seen it because I want to talk with you guys after you've seen it. But yeah, it's really great. The other thing I want to talk about is a thing that I didn't watch it all this week, but I have been watching it. And I know that Mitchell and Jessamyn have been watching it because I just want to talk about the Righteous Gemstones for a minute. Because we talked about it briefly, like probably around like the 3rd episode
Sure,
was out,
yeah.
maybe when we brought it up. But that show
Is so crazy good. Yeah.
and it's
it
like
gets better.
It,
and better.
yeah,
Every episode is consistent.
yeah, and they
like,
do
consistently
like
good.
unexpected things in most of the episodes. And I texted Mitchell about this, and I'm pretty sure I messaged you about it too. Is some of Judy's moments
Yeah.
towards the end of this season,
Her monologue.
Her
yeah.
were
monologue
the
with
funniest
DJ.
things I've seen
I've
in a very long
never
time.
seen something that insane be said and treated that seriously.
Yeah.
Like that was some stellar acting from
Yeah.
all parties involved.
Oh,
like I
yeah.
was like, how can you say this? How can you get through this shoot? Like, holy shit.
It's one of those things where like I'm watching Righteous Gemstones alone, but like my mouth is agape and I cannot open any wider, even though what is warranted is my mouth to be even wider than the last thing that was said. Like it is fucking insane. And I really think like I think for a long time, like I've really liked Danny McBride and I've really liked the energy that he brings, but he's like the spice to like the other protein in the
Yeah.
movie that I have. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like a Seth Rogen or like I think of Pineapple Express.
He's
and like
really good in Alien Covenant.
he is
So
really
like surprisingly good in Alien
yeah.
Covenant. Anyway.
But I think that the last 2 shows he's done on HBO, Vice Principals and now Righteous Gemstones, I love them. Like
Yeah.
they feel so distinctly him, while still feeling more accessible than most of his characters are like something like the Foot Fist Way, which have you seen the Foot Fist Way?
Okay,
but
you've like told me about it.
Yes, it's bizarre, and you should definitely watch it in 2000. Now is a great time to watch the Foot Fist Way. But yeah, definitely. That's just a second recommendation for the Righteous Gemstones. Even my brother Austin and his wife are watching it, and that is totally not a thing that I would think they would be into at all, but they really love it. And they've actually started watching Vice Principals now because they just want more. So, but yeah, definitely watch that. And since we mentioned Righteous Gemstones, watch Shrink, Tim Balt's show, that I think is still on NBC.com. Go watch it. It's the best thing that
his character is one that really comes around on Gemstones.
Yeah.
The thing about Danny McBride is sometimes you may not like his shtick because his character is exactly what it is throughout. But I think two things he does is he sets other people up for success, and the way he tells stories. Like there's a couple of things that they clearly set up in the first few episodes, pretty traditional. That you're like, I don't know if these are going to be held back or if they're going to hit the fan.
Yeah.
And pretty much everything hits the fan, and I like that because then you get to see how they're going to resolve it or not resolve it. And someone like Adam Devine, who does a fairly specific shtick, wow, I think he's already done a good job letting he does his things with the Workaholic guys, and he does his Pitch Perfect thing, but I think he's already done a really good job of letting other people make him interesting and turn what he does, which is essentially not really being that much of a different person, and use it really well. And I thought it was good. Those two, their obnoxiousness might bother me. It works so well, but again, by the end of the season, you really love Judy, who might be the least recognizable big character.
Yes,
so good.
But the musical number,
good.
I'm still singing it like, oh.
Yes. My husband, he played it in the car. Like he's been trying to learn it on the banjo. Like,
I love
definitely
it.
like an
It's
earbug.
so
amazing.
Yeah.
And I have I don't have a friend. I listen to a podcast. I say I have a friend. I hope everyone feels who listens to these are their friends.
I have a friend, Dog the Bounty Hunter.
So
we just met this week.
He's like the furthest thing from this, and he brought a guy on who is an editor at their website, and he was like, yeah, I grew up in Texas going to these mega churches, and he's like, some of this feels so ridiculously intriguing and fun. So just to hear him talk about how real some of that is, and how like people get it, like give Joel Osteen crap for being a cajillionaire for making money off of Jesus. But anyway, it's pretty funny.
Yeah, it's great.
You do you, Joel. I love Jesus too. So my recommendation is also similar. Yeah, I love money for sure. Similar to Righteous Gemstones and Joel Osteen, I have been watching Watchmen. And
yep, just one brief trip away
60 degrees of separation. They're right there. I have never read the comics. I have briefly seen some of was it Zack Snyder movie? Don't really know. I had no idea what I was getting into, but I knew that there was a glowy blue dude. And so other than that, literally going to Watchmen doing nothing. I didn't like the trailer. Damon Lindelof, who wrote it, also wrote Lost, and he did The Leftovers, which I hear the second and third seasons of The Leftovers are amazing, but I tried the first, I couldn't get it. So I was like, I'm going to give this a shot because it seems fun. And I've only seen 2 episodes. I'm pretty sad I'm here because I'm missing the third one right now. But I've been absolutely riveted through the first 2. It's been pretty fantastic, and I've been deciding, should I go to Wikipedia and like get some background on some of this? Should I read the comics? And I think I'm just going to watch this season, and then I'm going to borrow the graphic novels from you.
Cool.
And but I'm just super intrigued, and it's just been really fun so far. I think they could screw it up by not necessarily keeping the pace where it's at, but continuing to progress things as they have so far. I'm worried they're gonna sit where they're at, and with 10 episodes, I hope they don't do that. But so far, it's blown away my expectations.
Cool. This is probably well, I just have this question. Do they? How long after the events of the comic book does it take place? Do you know?
It's 2019.
Okay.
So yeah, it's in an alternate world that is 2019.
Okay.
And
that's what I wanted to.
I think that I will say this: a lot of people don't know anything about the Tulsa riots. And I think it was really like bold and impressive that they started the series off with it, because it is a piece of like history that is incredibly shameful, and like it's not even in like history books, like it's not on any state curriculum like standards. It is like now, like I think that state of Oklahoma just added it, but it's yeah, it's just a terrible thing that happened that
Jeez.
we all need to know
I
about.
only heard about it a couple of years ago, and it's only because I went to school for journalism, and I read a lot of long form that you might not approach, and it is, Black Wall Street, the Tulsa riots, it's incredible, and I've kind of been told that this is somewhat of a remix of the story because I don't know how exact. Again, they don't give those answers exactly,
Right.
but clearly there's things hinted at from imagery that I understand, and there's clearly things between like the Rorschach mask and the cops and the squids that like I know mean something, but I'm actually kind of happy I don't know anything
right.
more.
That's like an interesting
Cool.
place
Yeah.
to be in. I'm kind of jealous of you.
I'm listening to someone who is kind of breaking it down, but he's trying really hard to not be heavy-handed, and it's been interesting to learn about how superheroism, if it is that, works in this world, because it's completely different from what I thought.
Right.
Even after watching the Zack Snyder, but I was watching it passively, but I'm like, oh, I watched the whole movie and I had no idea that person didn't have powers. I'm so confused.
What the
Thanks, Zack
fuck?
Snyder.
Yeah.
Don't screw things up anymore. No, I'm kidding. But yeah, that's my recommendation. I think it's really good. I think if you haven't watched it, I'd recommend it going in like me. I don't know what fans of the comic think of it. I feel like generally it's getting very positive reviews, and the people who I know who have read it and care about that story and have watched it are positive so far.
Yeah. I think I'm going to wait till they release a Snyder cut of Watchmen.
How dare you?
So-
This isn't my house, but get out.
No, yeah, I'm excited to watch that. I'm really nervous to watch it because I
did
I
not
feel like I-
like the trailer.
I hated the trailer. I mean, I don't know. I don't usually get if an adaption's bad. I'm just kind of like I feel like that was kind of your reaction to Umbrella Academy. Was just
yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
okay, cool.
Tyler, My Chemical Romance is back.
So glad you mentioned that.
I
Are they-
honestly,
are
the
they-
last
Umbrella
2
Academy,
days,
Gerard Way. My Chemical
Are they
Romance.
back though?
They're doing a reunion
I
show,
know it's like,
and we don't know what it means.
yeah,
Yeah.
because
Tickets sold out in 5 minutes.
that's fucking insane. I will say that's all I've been listening to for the last 2 days.
Yeah.
Was like, well, I'm back on this
All right,
shit.
Helena on repeat.
I mean, and the next day, I believe it was Rage Against the Machine.
Yes.
was also possibly
Which
back.
was
Coachella?
also very great
I think
news
that's
for like
confirmed.
young me.
Oh,
Yeah, they have
sure.
4 shows.
Yeah.
But they did this once before where they had like a series of shows and they did not record
Yeah.
any new music.
They're playing.
a good way to make money.
Warped Tour? Is that even a
No,
thing?
No, Warped
Warped
Tour's
Tour's
over.
If
but
Rage
Coachella,
played
it
Warped
just
Tour,
ended, right?
holy shit.
Yeah. They're headlining Coachella.
That's right. Okay. Yeah.
So,
Sounds like we're going to the desert, boy.
which is based.
Can you imagine us at Coachella?
No, it would be. I can. There's
Maybe
a world.
Coachella like 10 years ago. Like, not
There's a
modern
world where
Coachella.
I can imagine myself at Coachella, but it's not with you.
That really hurts my feelings.
That's weird because like the only way I can imagine myself at Coachella is with Mitchell.
Mitchell's my gateway to shitty mainstream culture because I would be whatever the Instagram trope that year is. I'm dressing this way, but legitimate good musicians would be there, and I'd be like, yeah, whatever stage you want. Are my butt cheeks
you're
hanging
like-
out of these jean shorts properly?
Are you saying that you're the best person to go to Coachella with?
Oh, I think
because
we'd
you
have a
would be.
blast.
I think
Because
you would
I'm
be
not all
a
that
support
invested in the
person?
music, but I would be invested in like the culture and what this is going to look like a week later.
I would just want to go with Mitchell and we'd swap. Like, okay, you pick the next stage, I'll pick the stage after, and we'll just alternate.
Here's the thing: would I go see some artists that I don't actually like that much for spectacle? Yes. Otherwise, I wouldn't really care.
Yeah,
I just
yeah.
I feel like it would be an intensely either painful or just hilarious experience.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know. I can't afford
Let's
the drugs
plan this
that
trip
way.
later. Let's plan this off mic.
We can.
But yeah, let's all go to Coachella.
Well, hey, thanks for joining us for Rewatchers on the pod. Thanks so much for Jessamyn for joining us. And we're excited to come back next week with The World's End and some guy named Brandon Bills. I don't know.
Brandon Bill's a cool guy. You'll
But
like him.
The World's End, technically like this edible. Oh my gosh,
Edible?
this edible,
Edward
this
Sharp.
edible trilogy.
And the Magnetic Heroes.
But it's really good. So watch it so that you know what the hell's going on because my summaries are kind of shitty. Anyway, thanks
say
for
that.
joining us for Rewatchers on the pod. My name's Mitchell Marshall, along with
Tyler McKinley.
Tyler Harris.
Justin Hammer.
Peace out, cuties.
Bye.